morning, fantasy. We are back. It is Thursday, February 24th. It is 8:37 a.m. Running a little late this morning, boys. Sorry about that. We have a great show in store for you guys today. Going to be a short one, but an amazing one. Today we are breaking down the 2022 rookie quarterback class. We have 6 guys to run through today. We're going to be going through my real-life NFL rankings and my fantasy football rankings, which is obviously the more important ones. If anyone's here for actual fantasy football and not here for trying to inherit my real-life scouting opinions. So basically, we're just going to go through one by one here, break down my real life and fantasy rankings and why, talk about a little bit what I saw on film for these guys, and just get into it. We're going to start off first with the real life rankings. So starting off with these rankings of how good I think they will be as a quarterback in real life in the real NFL, kind of where I think they'll be drafted, along with the quality of these players. There's obviously tiers that associate with them as far as, the most quality, the least quality, guaranteed starter, maybe a backup for his career. And I'll get into all of those as we go through one by one through the 6 here. Starting off my real life rankings, my QB1 at the moment is going to be Mr. Small Hands himself, Kenny Pickett, QB1 from Pitt University. I really liked his film. I think he's a nice, well-rounded, balanced quarterback. As a lot of people compared to him on film, they called him a lot of I saw a lot of Joe Burrow light comparisons, and I feel like that's pretty relevant. I think he is an older quarterback who gained a lot of experience in college, put together a really nice senior season, and he gave himself a nice big draft stock boost this past year. And I think Kenny Pickett can do a lot of things well on a football field. He has a great arm. He is mobile, but not the most mobile. He is smart. He throws a nice, accurate ball. He's a great player. I think Kenny Pickett has a lot of nice intangibles, and he's a nice leader. I think he's going to be a great quarterback at the next level, and I think he is definitely worthy of like a top 15 draft pick of the NFL draft this season. I think Kenny Pickett is a great quarterback, and I would love if the Steelers got him. Please, Steelers, if you're listening out there, take a shot on Kenny Pickett from Pittman. I really like him. He wouldn't even have to travel, so I think Kenny Pickett definitely deserves a shot here from Pitt. QB2 for me in real life is going to be Malik Willis. I'm huge on Willis. As we'll hear more in my fantasy rankings here in a little bit. Malik Willis is an absolute stud. He is a really, really physically gifted quarterback. He has a cannon of an arm, like super, super elite arm strength, like Josh Allen level arm strength, along with really fast mobility. He plays a lot like Josh Allen, in my opinion, honestly. He is extremely fast. He's a powerful runner. He'll truck DBs down. He can escape with the best of them, and he has elite level accuracy. He can drop it in on a dime. His film is insanely fun to watch. He can dump it right in the bucket, dude. There's so many crazy plays on his highlight, not even on his highlight reel. It's just like turn on any game from Malik Willis, and you'll be shocked at how good his accuracy is. I think Malik Willis has the highest ceiling by far out of any prospect in this class. I think he could be amazing. He's definitely worth a first-round pick, in my opinion. Probably mid to late first, but I do think he'll be a first-round pick this year in the draft, especially after the combine and pro days. He's going to look really good in shorts running around there, chucking those deep balls, and he's so good at throwing. QB3 is going to be Sam Howell from North Carolina. Howell had a rocky senior season. He threw a lot more interceptions than he usually does. A lot of people give that up to him losing a lot of his top weapons. Sam Howell is also QB1 for a lot of people on fantasy Twitter and in the industry. Myself, he's my QB3. I think he has some accuracy concerns sometimes, but he throws a really nice deep ball. He is elite. He has elite pocket mobility. I wouldn't say mobility in general. He's quick, but he's not fast, if that makes sense. He accelerates at lightning speed and can get out of the pocket in an instant, but he doesn't really have that straight ahead speed you're really looking for as far as mobility goes. But like I said, though, he's an excellent athlete. He has nice ball placement. He has a good arm. He really throws a nice deep ball. He throws a catchable ball, but the accuracy in the middle part of the field can really be shaky sometimes. So Howell is a question mark for me. I think he can be really good, but I also think he has a really low floor. So that being said, he's my QB3 this year. I think he could be worth a late first-round draft pick. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking him in top 15 at all. I think that he could be the QB1 in this class, but I don't think so. I think Pickett is a pretty safe lock to be first drafted, in my opinion. I think Sam Howell's a good player, like I mentioned, and I think he has a nice future ahead of him, but I'm not a big fan personally. Not a big fan there. What's going on, Ed? Appreciate it, man. I love the real-life breakdown and the fantasy breakdown separation. Yeah, I think it's very important to separate the two, honestly. I mean, I think a lot of players are really good in fantasy and not good in real life, or not good in fantasy but good in real life. Like, I have a whole thread on my Twitter where I break down how Mac Jones is a good real-life quarterback, but he's not good for fantasy football, and that's why he's a dynasty sell, and like et cetera. Like Jalen Hurts is not the best real-life quarterback, but he's an elite fantasy football player. There's this, there's layers to it. So I appreciate that, Ed. Thank you. We're going to move on here from Sam Howell, QB3, on to my QB4 here. We're going to move on to Matt Corral from Ole Miss. Corral, actually, he fell for me a lot this year. I won't lie. I didn't watch a lot of film in season, but he was my QB1 before I came in and did film. Step back. Before Kenny Pickett really rose this past season, I remember in the spring of last year, or like fall of last season, excuse me. Yawn break. Anyway, this past fall, I remember like in September, October, November, a lot of people had Matt Corral's QB1 before he got injured, and he was playing lights out. But after Corral got injured, started having some off games, his stock fell. I turned on the film, and I won't lie, I was disappointed. Matt Corral, I had really high hopes for him in his film, but he really struggles with consistent accuracy, I found. He has a lot of elite intangibles. He's very fast. He can throw off platform in a lot of ways. He mixes up arm angles and throws, which is awesome. I love seeing that at an elite level at quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. I think he has a lot of elite potential, but he throws like ducks sometimes. Like he does not throw a tight spiral, I would say. On deep balls, he is very inaccurate sometimes. I saw him missing a lot of wide open wide receivers down the field. In the NFL, I mean, it's hard enough to get any separation at all from these elite tier defensive backs. I mean, if you're going to have a wide open wide receiver, you got to hit that man in stride. And I was not seeing enough of that from him. I think he's still developing as a passer. He's fast, but he's not the most fast. And he's accurate, but not the most accurate. I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about Matt Corral right now. I think he has some work to do developing as a passer. As a player overall, I think he's very talented. But right now, I'm not the biggest Matt Corral fan. Like I said, he's fast. He has nice arm talent, but not elite. He's accurate in the short to medium parts of the field, but deep, he kind of struggles, in my opinion. He throws a decent deep ball in general, but the accuracy is He lofts them sometimes, and they can be underthrown or overthrown a lot of the time. Not a big fan of that. But like I said, mixes up arm angles nicely. Really nice runner, mobile, very intelligent. It seems pretty poised from what I've seen on film. So I like Corral. I think he could be worth a first-round draft pick. But I'm not going to be drafting him top 15 at all if I'm a real-life NFL GM here. I think he has really high potential, but his floor, once again, is lower than these other quarterbacks in the draft, in my opinion. All right, moving on to QB5. This is kind of, I don't know if this is a hot. I think a lot of people have these last two quarterbacks all over the place, especially the last guy. Desmond Ritter, though, comes in at number 5 for me, quarterback from the University of Cincinnati, UC. They had a really, really good season. They went undefeated into the playoffs to play Alabama, and they lost in the first round, obviously, to Bama. Ritter showed a lot of nice traits on film, in my opinion. He's fast. He has nice arm talent. He's pretty accurate. I looked at some scouting reports of him, though, before I watched film. I do that for most prospects just to like get a feel like what I'm looking for. And the biggest thing for him is accuracy and consistency, which is a big one, obviously, for your quarterback. I like Ritter. I think he's mobile. He has a nice arm. I think he has better arm talent than Matt Corral, for example. But the accuracy is a concern. He doesn't throw with very much anticipation. And he definitely misses some players that should be wide open. He misreads situations sometimes too. I honestly don't think Desmond Ritter is an NFL starting quarterback right now. I think he should be a second-round pick with a chance to start, brought in for training camp and a competition. I would not feel comfortable rolling him out there as my starting quarterback week 1 this year at all. I think he needs some time to develop. He has nice tools. He has nice speed, nice arm strength, nice arm talent, nice accuracy. But overall, Ritter is going to need some work. He has nice, really nice legs, though. I think that he can be developed into a nice dual threat weapon in the NFL if drafted and used properly by an NFL team. Moving on to my last real-life quarterback here. Number 6 is going to be Carson Strong. I think it's pretty fun, honestly, that his name's Strong and he has such a cannon of an arm. But that's pretty much all he has, honestly. I was not impressed by his accuracy. I think he missed a lot of wide open wide receivers. He has an absolute cannon of an arm. Cannon. Elite level arm strength. Top 10 in the NFL level arm strength. But I am not impressed with his mobility. I am not impressed with his athleticism at all. I think he can navigate the pocket decently. I saw some comparisons to Big Ben. That's fair. He did have a knee injury that a lot of people were saying were hindering his mobility and his play this past season. which is understandable, and I won't going to hold that against him necessarily. But he did not look great to me on a film, honestly. I think he's a career backup. He gives me Jacob Eason energy from a couple years ago. I think he'll be drafted in the second and third rounds. He'll be a backup, and he will be a good backup. I don't think he's going to be a bad player necessarily. Obviously, he has a high ceiling because of that arm talent. I've seen Carson Strong on people's rankings up as high as QB3. So, I mean, it's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But personally, I think Carson Strong is the weakest of this QB class. He can't run. He has a good arm, but he's not the most accurate. I just don't see a lot from him. I think if you're in these days in the NFL, if you're coming out as a prospect and you're just a pocket passer, you have to be an elite pocket passer. And I don't think Carson Strong is that. I mean, I think Kenny Pickett's a better passer than him. I think Malik Willis at his best is a better passer. I think Howell could be a better passer than Strong. I don't know. I'm not a huge Strong fan. I'm really just not. But that'll do it for the real life rankings, everybody. So that's my analysis on these quarterbacks in real life, how I think they're going to be doing in the real NFL once they get drafted by an NFL organization here. But moving on, we're going to head over to our fantasy football rankings now. These are different in the sense that for these rankings, we are looking for players who are going to be producing fantasy football points. We are not looking for real life talent here. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, players like Mac Jones, great real life NFL quarterbacks. For fantasy football, I'm not really looking to have them on my team unless it's a deep dynasty superflex roster. But in this sense, we're kind of looking as like, okay, we want like top 12, top 20 quarterbacks here. Fantasy football rankings here, they're not much different than my real life rankings, I won't lie. But QB1, you may have guessed by the title of this stream or the thumbnail if you're watching on YouTube. My QB1 is going to be Malik Willis, QB out of, I think it's Liberty. He is a stud. He is an absolute stud. He can run with the best of them. He has a cannon of an arm. He is absolutely deadly accurate when he gets rolling here. I love Malik Willis. I won't lie. I put on his film and instantly fell in love with the kid. I've never seen him play before. I put on his film in the Dynasty Nerds film room and I was in love. Jaw-dropping throw after jaw-dropping throw, mixed in with elite level athleticism. This guy is going to be a fantasy stud. Like I said, he reminds me a lot of his play style like Josh Allen just because of the arm talent, the mobility. I think he's an absolute monster of a human being. I love Malik Willis. He's so good. I don't know if he's going to be a starter right away because he's a little more raw in terms of pro readiness as far as like making through reads, reading defenses, etc. But his arm talent and accuracy blended with his elite speed and strength is off the charts. I love Malik Willis. I think he's capable of being the 101 in Superflex formats, depending on where he's drafted this season. I really, really like him. Willis is giving me big, big fantasy stud energy. I think he's going to be an absolute monster in the NFL. And even if he isn't that good in real life, as long as he's scrambling, he's going to be good for fantasy football. And that's why he's number one. Number two, moving down the board here, Kenny Pickett from Pitt. Once again, Pickett, QB1 in real life. Pickett slides down the board here to QB2 for fantasy football. So the thing with Pickett is he's not the most mobile in the world, right? I already mentioned this, but he has like Joe Burrow level mobility, which is enough to give you a little bit of a boost over like the straight up pocket passer, like a guy like Carson Strong. I like Pickett. I think he's a really good real life quarterback, and I think he's capable of being an elite level NFL quarterback to the point where I think his passing work will be able to, elevate him to a startable fantasy quarterback asset down the road. So I like Pickett. I think he's capable of being a top 15, top 10 draft pick in this draft class. So I think he is good enough in real life to justify being the number 2 fantasy quarterback here off the board for me. Moving down the list here to number 3, Sam Howell, quarterback from UNC, finds himself in the same spot as his real life rankings at number 3. Howell is 3 across the board here, ladies and gentlemen. But the thing with Sam Howell is the mobility. He is fast. I think he is a nice scrambler. He takes off a ton if you watch his college film. This last year, he ran a lot more than he did the last few years. A lot of people think that's because his targets weren't as good as the last few years, which is totally understandable. But in the NFL, he's probably going to have to run for his life a little bit too, which is good for fantasy. I think he has a nice rushing baseline. And I think if he gets to the right situation and develops well, I think Howell could develop over Pickett in fantasy football because of the rushing upside that Pickett does not have. But I think Pickett is such a better passer than Howell that I have to put Howell under him in my fantasy rankings right now at number 3. That being said, though, I'm still very interested in Sam Howell. In a super flex draft, I will consider taking him in the back of the first round. Moving on to number 4 right here, Matt Corral finds himself in the same spot at number 4 in real life rankings. Corral over Howell is a tough one. It's still honestly a toss-up for me because Corral runs a lot more than Howell does. But I think Corral is less developed as a passer and could have worse draft capital. So right now, I'm going to go with Matt Corral under Sam Howell at number 4. Number 5, we're going back to same rankings again. Desmond Ritter, number 5. Similar to what I was talking about with Corral and Howell. He runs a lot, but not that much. He is a talented passer, but I think the draft capital and where he lands is going to be a big factor here. And where I think that Desmond Ritter is going to shake out on things. I have him lower on the list here because I think his draft capital honestly is not going to be very good. He kind of gives me Jalen Hurts energy coming out as far as a second, third round talent quarterback who has a lot of athletic ability and could end up being a starter someday. But I don't think he's ready to be an NFL starter day one right now. I really don't. Moving on to number 6 here, and last but certainly not least, Carson Strong running out the board here. Guys, I don't hate Carson Strong. I really don't. But as far as fantasy football goes, he's clearly dead last in my opinion. He doesn't run the ball. He doesn't run. He is about as mobile as Big Ben Roethlisberger with maybe a little bit more juice, like young Big Ben Roethlisberger coming out of Miami of Ohio days. Go Red Hawks. But yeah, he's not very mobile. I think he is a pocket mobility at best quarterback. He's never really going to scramble at all. And quarterbacks like that are good in real life. They really could be good in real life. But for fantasy football purposes, not really interested in those guys unless they're having like career type years slinging the rock. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's rankings. Just to recap here, real-life rankings. QB1, Kenny Pickett. QB2, Malik Willis. QB3, Sam Howell. QB4, Matt Corral. QB5, Desmond Ritter. QB6, Carson Strong. Fantasy football rankings going to be the exact same except for swapping Willis and Pickett. QB1, Malik Willis. QB2, Kenny Pickett. QB3, Sam Howell. QB4, Matt Corral. QB5, Desmond Ritter. And QB6, Carson Strong. If I had to pick a personal favorite right now, it's going to be Malik Willis. I absolutely adore his film. I'm also big on Kenny Pickett. Don't really love any of the other guys, honestly. I think Howell has a high ceiling and Corral have a high ceiling. Ritter and Strong, I think, are developmental projects. Not a huge fan of the rest of those guys there, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Good Morning Fantasy, breaking down these 2022 rookie quarterbacks. Let me know what you think about my rankings on Twitter. They're published on my pinned tweet right now as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning, guys. Good morning, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.